This is Jay Ramone with Rock 100.5 The KATT, and we are in Tulsa, Oklahoma, sitting on the patio of the venue Shrine, 18th in Boston, a legendary area for music here in Tulsa. And so you guys can see this big building behind us, this with the HP on the top back there. Okay, I worked in that building for an insurance company when I was working as a part-timer in radio, working my way up to get a full-time position. My day job was for an insurance company, and I don't even remember what floor we were on, like, I don't know, like third or fourth or something like that. It was one of those mindless cubicle jobs that no longer exists.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Because at the time, before everything went digital first, you know, it had to go somewhere. There's all these insurance policies that you had to keep. So there was all this paper.
Yeah.
So they had this whole department with these industrial scanners that you're just putting pop one page at a time, and it's going just super, super fast.
Jeez.
That's how you started. Like everybody thinks of, oh, you work in a big company, you start out in the mailroom. Nope, I started out in the scanning department.
The scan room.
Yeah,
Gotta
the
get it
scanning
right.
department. Had to get it right. And that job sucked. It was terrible.
So what is the feeling now that, like seeing that when you're like, okay, it's like I was doing this part-time while I was doing that. Like, how do you feel now when it's like you come back and it's like you look over there and now you're doing this like full-time?
I kind of have PTSD a little bit. Like, that was such a mindless job. And they, like, I remember getting in trouble for listening to music while I was working. Like, I had headphones on. It wasn't where anybody else could hear it. You know, it's not like I'm sitting there with a boombox
But it's still
or
a
whatever.
problem.
Yeah, they were like, "Hey, you can't be doing this.
This is
too
too like Office Space.
Yeah, it was 100%.
I wish I could
just
listen
like
to
that.
my
You gotta
music
walk
at a
in, look
reasonable
at the
volume.
same walls, and not listen to any fucking music.
So I don't even think I introduced who you guys are. I'm sitting here with KIRRA, and I know it's weird that we're in Tulsa because you guys are from Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
And we've tried to do this for a few years now, and then COVID hit and everything shut down.
Right.
Yep.
And then aligning schedules, it just hasn't worked out exactly.
But it
Got it here today.
exactly. We are here.
Plus, I wanted to see Donnie Rich and say hi, and I was already in town, so it worked out perfectly.
Donnie's a good guy.
How many venues have you guys played in Tulsa? I know Badass Renee's you guys have played before.
Yes, we played the Vanguard, I believe, once.
Played the Shrine before,
and
as
then
well.
we've played the Shrine a few times. The
That's
Shrine is
actually
probably
fun.
our most visited venue in Tulsa.
Right.
Yeah, there's been some like I don't think we ever got to play like VZDs.
That's Oklahoma City.
Oh, is that Oklahoma City? So yeah, I don't even know.
Canes, Brady, or Tulsa Theater.
Right.
as
That's
it's
right.
known
Yeah, the
now.
new name change. Yeah.
But there's not. When I think about original music venues, obviously there's the Mercury, but it's more kind of red dirt Americana, style, oriented. Whereas in Oklahoma City, you think about those original music venues. There was VCDs that was around for a long time. Then 89th, or the Green Door, the Conservatory, that whole era. It's been an original music venue for a long time. The Shrine has kind of been that for Tulsa, other than the big rooms like Canes and the Tulsa Theater.
Yeah, kind of still providing opportunities for bands that maybe aren't doing arena tours, right? You can come through the Shrine and have a great show. Every time, I think last time we were here, we were with Smile Empty Soul, September Morning, which that was fun because we shot a music video for our song Caving In.
Okay, I didn't realize that was done here.
Yep, Yep, we shot it on that stage with our buddy Matthew Austin from Still Point Visions hooking us up
Anybody
with that.
that tunes in and watches that music video, if you look carefully, you can tell it's at the Shrine here in Tulsa.
It was cool.
The first time I saw KIRRA play was your first CD release party.
No kidding.
At the Farmer's Market.
Oh, yes.
With Puddle of Mud.
That was so
fun.
fun.
And I can't remember who the other support was on that show.
Part-Time Savants and Octave Jaw.
Octave Jaw, that's right, because they were from Ardmore, where I was living at the time. Nobody knew it at the time except for my friend Kevin Kerr, who's another radio guy, who I brought with me because we were both working in Ardmore. I knew at the time, and he did because I told him on the drive up, that I was leaving the radio stations in Ardmore, and I had accepted a job at the KATT. And so that was the first day that he knew was right then.
Wow.
And so we came up to come see that show.
Oh man,
you guys have been out on the road and touring a lot since then.
Yes.
Like I know you guys have been out with Nothing More and with Sevendust, and I can't remember who all was on those packages because there's always 3 or 4 bands.
Exactly. Yeah.
The first run with Sevendust, we were on the bill with I think it was like 5 bands.
Yeah. Tremonti, Cane Hill, and Lowwater.
As
and
well
then
as
Sevendust,
yeah.
But yeah, it was that was a really fun tour. It's one of those differences because we went on tour with Sevendust twice, one in 2019, one in 2021. And in 2019, it was a 5-package bill. That's always tough. That's always really tough, especially. And we were the first to 5.
Ooh,
so
yeah. Oh yeah,
it's a long night, you know.
Right, we still had a blast.
It was still a blast, but it was a little bit more of like a hard-working, grueling tour. Whereas the second one, we were first of 3, and it was just infinitely easier, logistically.
Those first of 5 shows are the ones that you pay your dues.
For sure.
You cut your teeth because you are hustling for every single fan. Even after you finished your set, you finished playing, most of those people weren't there yet.
Right.
And you still have to put on your salesman hat and hustle.
Yep.
Yes.
Because you gotta put gas in the tank,
Right.
you know? Like
You gotta
people
stay
don't
the whole
understand.
show, trickle down economics. You hope that, the big Sevendust crowd comes and walks by your merch table and sees something they like or whatever.
Yeah,
But, I mean, it
and
is
then there's-
Sevendust crowd. So, I mean, like, even though not everybody had, thank you. Not everybody had, filled in, whenever we were playing. There was still a good amount of people there because,
And we would always kind of, hey,
Sevendust.
did you catch the set? Like, oh, no, I got here late. It's like, oh, well, you got to get a CD then and check it out then.
Right.
Yeah, you got to, you didn't hear it. You got to get it. It's so cheap, And we did have some people that just out of support would buy the CDs or buy, if they liked a shirt, they would buy a shirt or something.
And it also depends on your merch booth placement, like where you are in the row, if you're set up right next to the headliner and the headliner is doing like they're coming to the merch booth after the show or whatever, you better stand there the whole time because those people are going to be in line right in front of you. It is nothing but interaction time.
For
but
sure.
It's not just about like making enough money to get to the next city. It's also about creating a relationship with a fan where they're going to come back to the show the next time. The next time you come through. Maybe you're not on a package. Maybe you're by yourself. And you have to build those relationships to get those people to keep coming back and listening to your music and sharing with their friends.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
It's basically like it's about making the audience feel something, and connecting with them. And then that's what our job is when we get up on stage, especially when we're in a opener direct support position. Our goal is to, like, in a sense, not in a mean-spirited way, but we're trying to outwork everybody.
Right.
We're trying to go up on stage and put the most energy out that we can possibly do. And out of the kind of the desperation of being a young band, like, we're trying to get every single person in here to connect with us. And how we do that is
impressions are everything. You want to make an impression. You want to set the tone.
make an impression.
You guys know the old story of Jerry Lee Lewis opening up for Chuck Berry, and he felt like he was a bigger artist and a better performer and should have been headlining that show. And he went out there to make sure that he was going to show up Chuck Berry, and that piano was on fire by the time the night was over.
Fucking A.
It's true. It's kind of like an archetypal situation for musicians. We all have our Jerry Lee Lewis moments. We're like, I'm going to set it on fire. I'm just going to and that's maybe it's a bit ego, but it's it's also you're really just trying to perform the best. You're just trying to be at the top of your game at all times.
Yeah, and it becomes a whole lot less about us versus whoever else is playing. It's just us versus ourselves.
Exactly. It's us versus us.
It's human nature. We all want to be Michael Jordan. Like if you don't, there's something wrong. Like that's that deep inside that fire to actually be the best.
Right.
When you got it, you got it.
Yeah, and when you get results, back from that, especially when you go on a tour with somebody like Sevendust, and you go out there and you give it your absolute all, and you see fans come up like, you guys were killing it, dude. You should have, whatever.
That's some of the best feeling.
That's not being on a package with a layup band, so to speak.
No.
Sevendust brings a performance every single night.
Even the best players in the industry are they recognize that Sevendust puts on some of the best shows.
So you better do the same thing.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's pretty difficult for an
Yeah.
opener to be out on tour with them.
Yeah, it was, and it's fun too, because like we feel that sonically they're pretty close to us. You know, they're definitely an inspiration of ours. You know,
Yeah.
we look up to Sevendust, so it's like just trying to hang with the big boys, basically. You know, we may not have the kind of the production as far as like lights and things like that, but we've got energy and we've got
Yeah.
songs, and we feel like, you know, like we were just trying to go out there and like, all right, let's just show these fans what we got, and hopefully they'll be receptive to it. And that was a great tour. Both those tours were great because the Sevendust fan base like is very, they're genuine, nice people.
They
I
love
really
new
love playing
music.
for them. It's really
Yeah,
you know.
they seek out new music
Yeah.
that is similar in sound.
Yeah.
You know, like they're not just taking what is being force fed to them.
Exactly. Yeah, their music tastes are not swayed by what's the top 40 thing. It's like
Correct.
Right.
they like what they like, and we're like that's who we want as fans, is the people that know what they like, and you know, like those are our
Yeah.
people.
So
Yeah.
you guys opened for national bands before, but it's different when you go out on tour. Like when you're actually going out on a tour.
day-to-day.
What was that
Right.
feeling like the first time you guys went out on a big tour?
Well, shout out to Saving Abel. They were the first band that really took us out on the road, and we got to multiple times.
I didn't realize that. I
Yeah.
always thought it was nothing more.
See, that was the biggest tour we had done in our career at that point, and that was a whole huge opportunity. That was crazy. But no, Saving Abel, they were the first ones to take us out, and they took us out the end of 2015, beginning of 2016, and that was where we kind of cut our teeth a little bit. We got to learn the rules of the road and got to learn what not to do, how to be quick, and you know, there were times where their crew were kind of purposefully giving us like making us be quick and prompt and stuff, like so that way we didn't kind of lollygag and think like, oh yeah, just because you're direct support, don't get big britches. And they knew we were green too.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, we're gonna make sure they know how it's run. And so every tour since that, we've been fortunate enough to receive the feedback that people think that we're easy to work with and that we're quick and we do what we need to do and we don't get in the way and stuff. But that comes from those first tours of just kind of.
That was a big compliment on that second run with Sevendust. Was they had pretty much all the same road guys with them, and it was like even like hearing it from like their road techs and everything, and they're like, "Oh, you guys are super easy. Like you guys are on, you play, you're off." He's like, we've never had an issue with you. And it's like to me, like that was a real kind of prideful moment, 'cause
Right.
it was like you want to impress the bands, you want to impress the guys that you're looking up to, but it's like you go on the few of those tours, you start realizing how really important it is when you get their techs and their road guys, somewhat
Yeah.
on your side.
Because one band gets off and goes over time or something like that, it's a snowball
jacks the
effect.
whole
It,
thing.
it,
Yeah.
compounds. That problem gets larger. It does not get smaller.
Yeah, that was the big part of that first one when we were number 1 out of 5. It was just like we have to go. Like
Yeah.
as soon as we're done, it's like you grab that, turn that off, just start tearing
Start
stuff
throwing
off. And
stuff.
it was like that first one it was a bit stressful, and then like I said, that second one it kicked around. There was less bands, but it was like I think because we had done that and like we're so hard on ourselves about doing that, it's like every show since then, it's like
It felt
we
like a
have
breeze,
this system,
yeah.
like this unspoken
Yeah.
system that's like you give us 5 minutes, we're off. Everything's off. We're out of your way. Like that's been. I feel like that's something that a lot of people kind of look over, like just like in their own bands sometimes.
Right.
Like when you're the first band on, but you're packing your stuff away on stage. Then you're sitting there, everyone else is just watching you, like, oh, dude, like what are you doing? Like it just hurts.
That's like nails on a chalkboard.
it is. It really, really is.
It's like a little story in the band that one time we were in Nebraska at a venue that I don't think exists anymore. I believe it's called Sidetracks or Side. Yeah, I can't remember. Shamrock. Shamrocks. That's where it was. There was a band that we played with where, like, they were tuning their guitars on stage, but no pedal, so just through the amp, and then it wasn't just a half step. This is going from like E standard for all my guitar nerds out there, from E standard down to like a 7-string drop A tuning.
Oh, no.
And we're hearing every string. And we're just sitting there like, oh my gosh. So like seeing things like that happen, we're like, we never want to be that band. We never want to be that band that's up on stage just like making all these basically faux pas, like
I've seen Rev Jones do that, but it was middle of a song and it was part of the solo. That's how he was playing the solo.
That's just Rev. That's how he rolls.
Yeah, he's crazy. I don't know how he does half of what he does. He's an insane musician. Shout out to Rev Jones.
He was there. He played with us in some of our first shows
Yeah.
ever back at the Chameleon Room.
Funny enough, before KIRRA got formed, there was this school called Oklahoma Rock Academy. Max Baker. I know you've been doing a podcast with Max.
Yep.
I think that's cool. We have a little bit of history with Max, and he had that rock and roll Oklahoma Rock Academy.
We've actually talked about having you on and like Eric from Sign of Lies and some of the other players that went to once we get to that part chronologically.
Yeah, because that's cool. I like how you're doing his story because he's a very interesting guy. But Rev was one of the teachers at that school, so we got to know Rev, or at least I got to know Rev really well over that course of being at that school, and because that was my first exposure to like some of the local, really great musicians that have been around in Oklahoma, and that was a cool experience.
There's a rich history of really great musicians
Seriously,
from Oklahoma.
yeah.
Like when you look back into it and you start going back, every single genre, there's players that will blow your mind.
Seriously,
Like going back to Charlie Christian in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, dude.
And,
that's.
I'm trying to think of the guy's name here in Tulsa. It was Eric Clapton, I'm pretty sure, and he was on like the Tonight Show or something like that, and they asked him, who's your favorite guitar player, or who do you think is the best guitar player out there? And he said, Tommy Crook from Tulsa, Oklahoma. And this was a guy that when I was in college in Claremore, he played every like Wednesday or Tuesday night at this Thai restaurant, and he would just do like 4 hours of jazz, and it may be standards or it may be improv or but the dude just ripped the guitar like nobody's business.
Man. Yeah, there's so many great musicians. Like I worked at Guitar Center down in Norman for a few years, and I thought that was really interesting because man, I got to see like so many musicians who were not really like, I mean, they had stuff out there, but it was like still pretty underground, but they're so good. Like there's a guy who comes in the store, I believe his name is Mike Smith, I believe is his name. He's a kind of old country, like Jerry Reed style guitar player, Tommy Emmanuel type. And every time he'd come in, it's like everyone's like, dude, Mike's here. And then everyone's like, hey, Mike, do you want to try this guitar? Like everyone was just waiting for him to play kind of thing. And like, yeah, Oklahoma's got those musicians for you. Like you wouldn't think, no one.
You'd never know.
Oklahoma's a very unassuming kind of state.
Right.
We're not very flashy like L.A. or Chicago or wherever. But we've got some great musicians here.
Yeah, there's some serious history, and it goes all the way back to rock and metal. And I'm like you were talking about Max in the podcast. I've learned so much about those '80s metal bands from Oklahoma City that I didn't know anything about. That was wasn't really my era.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Power Lord and Oliver Magnum and all of those bands, I've gone back and listened to these. I've actually got to go to Max's house and dig through his vinyl collection and pull these records out and put them on the turntable.
Hell yeah.
And just like,
That's sick.
Shit, like, wow.
That was coming out of Oklahoma?
Right.
Kind of thing, like
this is thrash, early thrash, in the 80s when it's happening in the Bay Area. It was happening here.
Man, that's so cool. Like I had no idea too. Like I would never have assumed that
great to
would
have
have been
such a
going
rich
on.
history,
Because
yeah.
I figured once it became culturally known what was going on in the Bay Area, that would make sense to me. But the fact it's kind of happening, you have movements that take place in multiple spots at one time, but each movement doesn't know about each other.
Right.
It's kind of like how you get the difference in blues between like New Orleans and Austin and Chicago style blues, right? It's all happened at the same time, but in different places and sort of, closed off from each other in a little bit. So these unique cultures kind of get to form and stuff. I've always thought that like Oklahoma and Texas, Texas obviously is a giant state, but there's been some great bands that we've kind of had this opinion, at least, I don't know if people's feelings have changed, but whatever. Like, I feel like Oklahoma and Texas has some of the best rock bands coming out right now. Like, Nothing More is a San Antonio band. We play with Blacktop Mojo, and those guys.
Great band.
We love
Oh, yeah.
Blacktop. And they're out of Tyler, or somewhere around Tyler, and we had.
Or is it Palestine?
It's Palestine. Yeah.
That's what it was.
Palestine.
Yes, that's right. But yeah, and then there's a great band in the city, Pet, formerly known as Pet Toad.
Right.
Those guys are, I feel like,
Locust
they're
Grove.
super great bands, and there's lots of I just think lots of great
Dude,
stuff
with
coming out.
ACM, it kind of exploded a lot of these bands. Like out of nowhere, there just popped up all of these bands that I'm just like, whoa, like, wow, like who is this?
Yeah.
What?
I know they're not around anymore. Sons of Texas was another great.
I didn't realize they broke up. They were a great band.
Oh yeah,
That was
I
such a
loved-
shame when
I
they
loved
broke
them. I
up.
think a good chunk of the members are forming a new project, but I don't know what it is or
We
what
wanna
the
know.
status of it is. But they're coming back in some
yeah.
sense, in some carnation of it.
You know,
I've got
it
some
was-
Sons of Texas hot sauce that they sent me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've got the hot sauce shirt actually.
No, I kept it. I kept it sealed. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't know.
man.
Part of me was like,
I think it
want to
was
keep
on
it. But I'm
that,
like, what's going on with this?
I think it was on that second Sevendust tour when we found the Resurgence EP came out, the Sons
Yeah.
of Texas Resurgence EP, and dude, we listened to those 3 songs on loop on the road.
I remember being in Harrisburg at the HMAC and just jamming Resurgence before we went out and played at those shows.
It would get us pumped up to play.
Yeah, exactly. They it's basically our warm up. Like, all right, about to go out there and let's go. You know, trying to get hyped up.
I want to ask you a question, Dax. What was the inspiration behind the musician mastery courses that you started doing?
That was really just like the inspiration behind it is getting kicked in the teeth out here enough times. We've just holy crap, dude. In July, it was 10 years as a band.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So being in a band for 10 years, I had basically just noticed that there wasn't a lot of good in-depth resources for musicians that like want to know what it's like when you go out on tour. What is it like trying to budget a tour? What is it like trying to put together marketing campaigns? And do record labels work anymore? And
Everything
all these things,
seems to be either marketing based or we have this batch of contacts we will sell you.
I've seen that too. Yeah.
Nothing was truly educational of this is actual useful information that a band needs to know before going out on the road.
It's like the whole concept of give a man a fish versus teaching a man how to fish. There was a lot of give a man a fish type products out there in music business education, and so I was like, well, how can I teach people how to fish? How do I give them the tools that give other people? Like, there's one person that sold a list of booking agent contacts, which I think her name's Christy Morelli, which she has a great product. Good for her. I like it. But you could tell it's like, well, what a band could use their knowledge if they knew what to do to go find that themselves, And I wanted to help just provide different avenues for people to learn. And then there's this kind of stuff like where it's called a Money Smart Musician, where I tried to teach financial literacy and stuff like how do you set up an LLC, how do you run a business, how do you invest your profits back into the business, avoid tax liabilities and all that kind of fun, nerdy stuff that we make sound fun, because ultimately I know most people that, you hear taxes, you're like, well.
Here's the biggest misconception about bands that the fans don't realize. So I'm going to peel back the curtain a little bit here.
Back the layers.
When it comes to finances, everyone thinks, oh, that guy's got a guitar endorsement, or that drummer has got a stick endorsement, or a drum head endorsement, or a cable endorsement, or whatever. And yes, you may have an endorsement, but 99.9% of the time, you're not getting that stuff for free.
No.
You're getting it at a discount for them using your name, image, and likeness on their products if they want to.
Yeah.
Now, if you're the Rolling Stones or you're Metallica or you're one of these massive stadium bands or arena bands, yeah, you're probably getting a guitar for free every 3 or 4 tour cycles. But even those guys are buying, exactly what they want.
Exactly, because they got the means to get what they want
Right. At that point, they can afford it. Now,
there is a lot of misconceptions.
the difference is they're calling the luthier who works for whoever they endorse directly saying, hey, I need you to build me this exactly like these specs. I just sent them to you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Where, a lot of people starting out, there's kind of scams that have existed to get artists.
Almost pay to play, but on the gear side.
Exactly.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
if you give us X amount of money, we'll make you a second level endorsee. And then if you pay this much, we'll give you I'm like, that's not an endorsement. That's pay to play. And that's...
Just call it a membership
It's
thing,
a membership or something.
and
then with those companies, there's a lot of fraudulent practices where they'll hang out with like Alex Lifeson, and they'll have Alex Lifeson play on this guitar backstage at a show or something. And then all of a sudden, Alex Lifeson's on the website as someone who endorses. It's like, well, do they endorse it? Like, is that a twist of language where it's like, well, I think it's good. Oh, he endorsed it. You know,
Right.
And people will do anything they can to get these big names associated to their brand, so that when they sell to these smaller bands, it's like, see, don't you want to be with all these names? You know, and you're like, oh. And then sometimes when you're young and you're trying to like find opportunity, and you see, you're like, maybe that is a good opportunity. I don't know, you know, and people get sucked into. I think there's scams that way.
There's a lot of them out there, and it's unfortunate. But on the finance side of things, I'm sure you're teaching these bands that they can write off the costs of these things. Like,
I love doing taxes at the end of the year. I know that sounds crazy, but like it's like I get to the KIRRA LLC, and I get to like, all right, I get to go through all the statements and go, here's all the stuff that's 100% deductible, or at least up to 50% deductible. Like, there's a good resource out there called The Tax and Legal Playbook by Mark J. Kohler, and that book is so fantastic. Every musician should get that, because it breaks down getting the home office write-off, like any kind of write-off you can possibly think of for you and your music, you can utilize in that book. And that's definitely some of the stuff I try to communicate and those things. So that's really what, like, all of that is what inspired me to start creating that sort of stuff. It's just to give musicians...
Plug the website real fast. So
you can go to musiciansignite.com to check out my one-on-one coaching if you want to work directly with me. But I also have a book out called The Musician's Dilemma, which kind of talks through like a lot of the beginning stuff. I tell a lot of stories about KIRRA in our early days of like some of the lessons we had to learn and the experiences we went through and how that, you know, helped contribute to it. So musiciansdilemma.com, you can go check out. I've got a hardcover with some awesome bonuses and stuff like that.
I gained a lot of respect for you guys because you did it your own way. You know, when everybody in town tells you, wait for the motorcycle. when everybody in town comes at you with their advice saying, this is how you should do it. This is how you should do it. And that's how every local scene. It's always going to be that way. Yeah. Regardless if you want that advice or not, somebody's going to give it to you. But you guys didn't vary. You guys always kind of had a goal in mind. This is what we're looking to do, and we're going to figure this out. Not we're going to have somebody else figure this out for us. We're going to figure out how to do this.
Absolutely.
And you guys have gone from being on a label and all of that to realizing that you don't necessarily need a label.
Exactly.
You know,
that's a big thing. That's a big lesson we learned.
You guys aren't the only Oklahoma City band to have ever been signed to Pavement. You know, there's a couple out there.
Yep. And you know, you learn interesting things about the business when you have experiences like that, because you have preconceptions. You go into it, you have an expectation that it's going to be one way, and then, you know, you're fighting with an executive about 15-second parts of a song, and
a song that they've heard twice.
A song we've been listening to over and over and over again, and refining over and over again, and arguing over parts, and then at the end being told, like, yeah, I think you guys were right. It's like, well, thanks for acknowledging it now, but it would have been great while we were arguing if you would have trusted us, you know, a little bit. Right. And, you know, and then we've worked with other labels that were definitely, it was a whole different situation, you know? Yeah. But over time, bands that are at least the level that we're at right now, you kind of realize that labels in this era are like sharks in Shark Tank, right? If I have a business that's already making $100,000 a year, right, and I have 1 million monthly listeners, going to a label could be a smart thing to help scale. But if you're not at that point by yourself, expecting the label to do that work for you,
they're not going to develop you anymore.
They won't. That is not what they do anymore.
The days of big advances and them developing an artist, losing money for 8 to 10 years until it finally hits, that shit's over. It's over. It is long gone.
Yeah. And that's really where entrepreneurship is a musician's best friend, is learning how to be self-sufficient. And like, basically the way I've always approached it is, if you understand how any business works, you understand the basic economics of how any business works, you understand how the music business works. Because it's fundamentally not that different. It's just applying... Every industry has its own terms, you know, its own kind of in-group
100%
colloquialisms or whatever. But like, yeah, it's just all about learning how entrepreneurship works and how business works, and then how can I apply that to being an artist, you know? Right. Like, one of the things that we've done in the past year or so is develop a fan club. Sorry, I love all the bands out there that have fan clubs. We felt like most fan clubs were kind of just lame. Like, I'm not trying to throw shade or anything, but it's kind of like, okay, well, we'll give you early access to tickets, and then we'll send you a signed poster. Here's a merch bundle. Welcome to the fan club. And we were like, well, okay, well, if that's what big bands are doing with their giant budgets, how can we, like, we don't have a giant budget, but we know we can produce something that's like way cooler than that. So it's like, how do we create a membership for our fans that provides really cool behind the scenes stuff, fun, like different things like playing Xbox with us, like all these different things, right? So like once you learn how the game of entrepreneurship works, the door is kind of open to all the different ways that you can monetize your creativity. Because it's not really anymore like you're going to make a whole bunch of money from one stream. It's a bunch of little streams that kind of flow into you. And that's how people, I think, can survive more.
We're here at the Venue Shrine, and I was telling a couple of you guys earlier when I was talking to Donnie, this was the very first venue where I saw an artist selling a paid meet and greet at the merch booth. Oh. And it was it was Jordan Knight from New Kids on the Block, and he was playing a solo show.
Okay.
And this was like 3 years or 4 years after his solo hit. Like, he had a big hit at pop radio. This was after that.
Okay.
You know, he did not...
The wave had kind of died down.
Yes. And Donnie books this show, and we thought it was the funniest thing ever. And then I see this paid VIP meet and greet, and I'm like, there's no way people are going to pay for this. And the show was sold out.
Okay.
And absolutely they did. And Donnie sent me to go kind of straighten up and clean up the cleaning supply closet in between the bathrooms, because that's where it took place, right next to the mop bucket.
There you go. Exclusive access.
Yeah. Nice.
That's killer, though.
But all these ladies had brought their New Kids on the Block dolls and their pillowcases and all this stuff, and he signed everything. And Donnie and I were talking about it. It was like 2 weeks or a month later, he's got a massive article in Forbes magazine, and the dude is a multi-millionaire because of the publishing and all of the rights to New Kids on the Block. He was the one who didn't take the payout, and he went and got it all.
Oh, dude, that's so smart.
Like, it was super genius. And
That's,
he was here, you know, like, you know, we were...
Yeah, and there's like a lot of misconceptions like people have, like, to be big or even financially successful, that you have to be playing arenas. It's like there are plenty of bands that make great livings playing not even theater level, but just ballroom level or even bar level.
Red Dirt in Texas country is the best example I can give to anybody, because it's a totally different world. It really is a different world. Mm-hmm. These bands can make a great living. I mean, big guarantees, big percentages, and they're playing Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, and they're playing in 5 states. And that's it.
That's it, yeah.
It's not a tour like we know as rock bands going all over the country. Yeah. They're playing these honky-tonk ballrooms, dance halls that exist in Texas and Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, Kansas. You get outside of these big cities and you're in rural Oklahoma, there's going to be a dance hall that holds 800 to 1,000 people in the middle of nowhere that sells beer, that these guys can go in and they can make $25,000 a night, you know?
Yeah, that's the thing too, is like there are those different ways of doing it. There is no real like one way to do it.
No.
You know, there's a lot of people out there looking, you know, just because having the business I've seen, people are looking for the one thing. What's the one thing? You know, it's like there is no one way.
There's no right answer.
Thing, you know, it's having a set of fundamentals and applying them to your situation and just testing to see
finding
what works
for you.
You know,
what worked for that band, the copycat, it may not work for. It may, you know, the formula doesn't always work.
No.
It's a total guessing game.
Yeah.
Like, I never in a million years thought I would hear Whiskey Myers, Co Wetzel, or any of those type bands on the KATT. Never. But it's not that those guys have a twang or country. When you listen to their music, they're using the same distortion you guys are. You know, like it's.
I've noticed that that's been kind of a big point of contention, and especially since that, you know, it's in your world of putting more country-leaning artists like Hardy, Austin Snell, Jelly Roll, these type of guys onto
Austin Meade that
Austin
you guys
Meade.
toured with.
Love Austin Meade.
Oh, yes.
He gets a pass.
Shout out to Austin.
But no, because that's I can definitely see there's a divide in the rock fan base over it, and part of me is like, I listen to like Miles Davis and stuff and Steve Vai. I like weird stuff, I like stuff that's out
Me
there.
too, bro.
So yeah, like when I hear that stuff, it doesn't like.
I was listening
I'm
to
not
Shuggy
offended.
Otis on the way up here. Like I listen to all kinds of stuff.
Nice. But yeah, it doesn't make me go like, oh, but it does kind of make me like, I understand it more being on the KATT than I do like something like SM Octane or something.
Right.
Because that's a little bit more of a genre niche, curated kind of thing.
I would find it weird if I were driving through Los Angeles and I don't even know if they have a rock station. If they have a rock station and I heard Co Wetzel or Hardy or Whiskey Myers pop up on the rock station in L.A. or the rock station in New York, and they may be playing it. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
I would be surprised.
I would be like, But in Texas or Oklahoma or anywhere in the Midwest, I totally get it because this is Oklahoma. Like, we grew up listening to country, whether you liked it or not.
Right.
You heard it everywhere you went. But we have people who love George Strait and they love Slayer and Pantera at the same time.
At the same time, yeah. And on the flip side of that, like we recently kind of dabbled, with our own music and realized, we're all a bunch of good old boys from Oklahoma. Like, we don't necessarily want to write any country music, but by all means, if we want to write something that has some Southern roots to it, something that's got little bluesy, something Southern-ish, whatever, we can put our own spin on that and still have it be a rock song or what have you.
We have a song called Crutch that you should check out that is just like that. But
that's one of my favorites of yours, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
My two favorites. Sorry, I keep hitting your foot. My two favorites are Crutch and 16 Sons.
Oh, cool.
Because
awesome.
I thought those were the most outside of the box or out of the norm for you guys, sonically or creatively.
Sure. What's cool about 16 Sons is that was, we had this little intermediary part of our history where we didn't have a singer. Mm-hmm. We were trying to find a singer, and Gabe, luckily, answered our ad. And
where are you from originally, by the way?
So I was born in Claremore. I was raised in southern Kansas in a little town called Wellington, about 30 miles south of Wichita.
I went to college at Rogers State.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah, and like he came in, and it was like when we talk about this from time to time, where when he was coming into the band, we had a certain sound, and he's like, okay, they're going to keep writing that type of sound. And then he comes in, and 16 Sun was one of the first songs that just sort of came out between us.
Like, we didn't really have anything specific in mind. Like, there was a lot of questions whenever I first joined up with these guys. Like, what do you guys want to do as far as sound? Do you want to stay the same? Do you want me to try to, stick with that? Do you guys want to do something different altogether? And the answer to all of it was just, and so
wherever the music takes it,
So I mean, we started writing, and 16 Sons, like you said, was one of the first songs that we put together. And I don't know, like, it wasn't even like, we didn't even think in the beginning maybe we should write something slower or softer or more vibey or this or that or whatever. And it just, it just
Ryan
happened.
had a bass line.
Was there ever in the thought process of, we've got a new singer, he sounds totally different, we should re-record a couple of these old songs to kind of ease everybody into it?
That's funny, because
we
in the
did
KIRRA
exactly
vaults
that, yes.
on our fan club, you can actually hear two of like at least at the time, our favorite songs, which was My Disease and Send You to Hell. Mm-hmm. And Gabe went into the studio and recorded his own vocal versions. Now, we never released those.
Right.
Because we wanted it to be kind of like the stuff with Gabe is new music. We didn't really want to try to rebrand the old music, because the old music was how it was.
Did you release it to your fan club then, or
way later?
Way later.
Probably released it 2021.
Oh, so way later.
Recorded it.
It was recorded 2018. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was just one of these things we had in the computer, and we're like, You know, like we were thinking, we can put together way more cool content in our
Spice
fan
up the
club.
fan
You know,
club.
Well, that's always in the back of your mind, you know, like do we re-record? And you see so
Yeah.
many bands now from, everybody in the rock world now, and Taylor Swift even,
Yeah.
re-recording
I lost it.
to get their publishing back or whatever. What'd you lose?
Headphone audio.
Your headphone? Did it come back?
There it is.
don't you love it?
There it is. Yeah.
But yeah, Taylor Swift. I think she actually I think she just got the rights back to a good chunk of her catalog, if I'm not mistaken. And so she's like, I'm going to remaster these things and get my publishing. And get,
No. Somebody else owns the rights to those Big Machine records. She re-recorded every single record and is re-releasing them and doing very specific artwork digitally so her fans know which
Which is
one is
hers.
hers and which one is the evil man's.
But hey, I mean,
Genius.
Good
I mean,
for
dude,
her.
her tour has grossed $1 billion freaking dollars. Those are
tour.
numbers that, like, if I was looking at a Metallica tour, I would assume they come home and it's like, dude, we made 50 mil or something. Like, we killed it, dude. Or
Right.
maybe, we got 100 mil.
No,
That's 10%
she gave out
of what.
50 mil in bonuses.
Yeah, no, yeah. I think she gave her driver like $100,000 just cause.
Yeah.
Just cause. She's like, I got you want some extra money? Bam. Because she had the power. I mean, and that's to know that this is something to learn, is like her music has such a big economy
do you
around
think
it.
she was like very prim and proper and very polite and walks up to the driver and is like, hey, here's your bonus? Or do you think she was like Post
T-sweezing.
Malone style, just like, bam, making it rain?
Had one of those t-shirt shooters full of cash. And just, I would hope it was that.
I think probably since the Kanye thing, she might have a chip on her shoulder and might walk around like, "What's up, y'all? I'm T-Swizzy."
if she
I'm
did,
T-Swizzy.
if she just like ripped some bands off some cash and just like, I'd be like, that is awesome.
I know
Yeah.
you got your bonus already this year, right? Yeah, I did. Well, how about another bonus? Just throwing cash in there. All right, you're gonna have to pick all this up, but yeah, you got a bonus. No, but yeah, she's literally got a whole economy based around her music, and she grossed $1 billion. Man,
It's wild.
Those are numbers I never thought a musician could pull that kind of stuff.
For a tour.
A bill.
For a tour.
Just a tour, and it's not even done. There's still still has dates left, I think. Or maybe
So what do you think a Beatles tour would gross today if they were still alive
oh man,
and willing
such
to
a-
do it?
ooh.
you know.
Because they really and truly, they only stopped touring and playing live shows, because there was not a PA system big enough to drown out the screaming fans. Like,
For
you
real.
couldn't hear any of the music.
Yeah.
That's not a problem now. Like,
Yeah, not
now,
anymore.
now,
Yeah,
now
yeah.
we've
We
solved
have
that.
the technology.
We can crank it. We can make it booming now. Yeah, because that's funny. Like back in the day, that's like the reason microphones started getting put up on stage for guitar amps is because it's like, okay, I'm at 10, dude, and I still can't hear jack. People
And
are
these are
screaming so
tube
loud.
amps, 100-watt Marshall tube amps, full stacks.
These go to 11, and I can't hear myself still. I hear nothing.
And now there's no amps on stage and in-ear monitors. And
Everybody's coming through the PA.
Everything's just coming through the PA now. No need for cabs anymore. I'm slowly debating on whether I'm going to get rid of my cab or not.
We're not gonna let him.
Gabe doesn't want me to.
I'm indifferent on it, man. I think it totally depends on the player and what you like. The fans can't really tell the difference,
Most of the time,
when
no.
it's mixed. But it's up to the player. The player may like to feel the vibrations from the cab, the air moving.
There is a slight difference. Like people could say, "Oh, there's no difference," but
There is.
Yep.
There is.
physics matter.
Yes.
And you feel the physics of a real tube amplifier versus a digital.
When you're feeling the vibration of the sound waves versus it's just in your ears, there's a big difference.
Yeah.
But I think it totally depends on the economics of the band.
true,
Right.
very true. What the band's got available to them.
All depends on the venue as well. I mean, playing Diamond Ballroom, man, the bass shakes that stage so hard. You can feel it through your knees. It's wonderful.
It's all well and good to ditch the amps and cabs to save space in the trailer and save a little gas money on a tour or whatever. But what happens when you play a venue that's got 2 powered subs and 2 powered mains on trees, and that's what you got to deal with?
Yeah.
That's not going to fly without a cab.
Yeah.
Now,
Right.
that's not the ideal situation, and more than likely they advanced the rider and said, "Oh yeah, we're good," and then you get there, and that's the situation you're in.
Exactly. Oh, that's what you meant. That's not good. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it just.
I've seen big bands, like big classic rock bands, do it both ways. Like OGs who are like tube purists who swore they never would. I've seen them have Kemper rigs, going direct, and they're all in-ears, or I've seen them using Kempers into a tube power amp that's into a cab. So,
So that's more of the situation I'm doing right now.
It's your own personal preference, really.
As long as the fans, I've had fans come up and say they like the sound, and even though I'm like, I'm still tweaking it and trying to perfect it, like, as long as the fans dig it, that's a sign. That's a good sign,
Yep.
It's all knives and forks.
That's all that really matters.
So you guys have been releasing a series of singles over the last year. You just released one, like 2 months ago now?
Yeah.
Has it been 2
2 or 3 months ago, From the Garden.
Yep. And then launched a music video at the same time.
Yep, absolutely.
And then it was a couple of months before that the previous one. Has your idea changed from releasing actual albums to just releasing singles along as you go?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for the time now, it sure has. There was a certain point in time where we kind of just assumed the position of, all right, we're going to put out a couple singles and then follows the album. And those singles are on the album. And then we're going to do it again. And then we're going to do it again. But, the more, the farther along we kind of go with all of it, we kind of changed our minds up here and there. And,
are you guys making physical products, like CDs?
Yeah.
You are?
Yeah. At the moment, we've got some physical CDs for sale at the merch table right now for Flesh Gives Way, right? It's kind of... sometimes
it's more of the autographed memorabilia thing rather than
the functional way of consuming the music. Yeah, because most people, at least that I know of now, don't even really have CD players in their cars anymore.
I have some friends who are like super hardcore about CDs. Like that was their favorite medium. They still have CD players in their car.
Yeah.
They still carry the Case Logic binder, with them everywhere they go.
You got the same dudes with the vinyls and everything. It's the same sort of concept.
And cassettes. For the love of God, I do not understand why cassettes have made a comeback, but they have.
I would not have thought that. Because we tend to amplify the positives and downplay the negatives of things like CDs, for instance. I don't think consumers want to go back to paying $17.
No way.
For an album.
They'll never go back to that.
Dude, that was to think that the people were paying that for you get 9 songs and it was $17, and you're like.
And you like 4.
You like 4 of the songs. 4 of them. We need to. That's where I guess the term filler tracks comes from. Is like we need to fill this album up a little bit more so we can charge more, and so it's more. It was more of an economic thing than an art thing.
Music sales was never based on. We've created this piece of art that may be cut up into subparts.
Yeah.
Music as a product has always been how much can we put on this medium?
Yeah.
Whether it be how much or music can we put on this tape?
Yep.
Or how much can we put on this disc? You were limited to what you could do.
Yep. For sure.
Now you're not limited.
Infinite. You have all the access in the world now to any song you want ever, which is kind of a new thing too, where it's like the whole days of like, I'm going to hype up a release, for 2 or 3 months before the release comes out, I'm going to hype it up. It's like a lot of consumers now, if you don't have it available right now,
then.
They don't really care. Because if you're not already a band that they're into, if nothing more, Sevendust, Alter Bridge puts out a thing, this is coming in a month, I'm going to be like, dude, in a month some stuff's going down. But if I didn't know those bands, I'd be like, great, you should have called me in a month.
When it came out, you've already forgotten about it.
We'll go find something I can listen to right now.
That's way back in the rearview mirror. So yeah, that's something we're going to experiment with too in the future.
What are some bands that you guys would like to go out on tour with?
Sevendust again.
Man, we were talking about that earlier too. Yeah.
All right, before you guys finish this, have you guys listened to the new record?
I've listened
to parts of it.
4
yes.
songs.
So I listened to, I don't know, like 6 songs on the way up here because I'd only listened to I think the 4 that had come out up to today. Superficial Drug is ridiculous. Like, it is such an outside the box song for them, and nailed it.
Dude, I think, like, specifically within that band, Clint has really been evolving his songwriting into some really cool directions. So I think it's a really interesting release coming from them. Like, you know, Sevendust has a sound that, if you're a fan, you come to know and love, right? But they do really good at keeping that foundation while also pushing themselves artistically. Like, there's
That's
still
a perfect description.
Yeah, like, I know it's Sevendust and I get Sevendust vibes, but I don't feel like, oh yeah, that's exactly what they've
Like,
already
it's not
done.
redundant, you know?
Yeah, you know, it's still okay. I can see how they're pushing. And Lejean, he's always pushing himself in different ways too. You know, even though I can tell it's him. You know, but I'm like, oh, that's cool.
He's actually recently said, you know, he feels like the older he gets, the better he gets at vocal, you know.
I mean, I like a lot of newer Sevendust stuff more than I like the original stuff that they broke out onto the scene with.
That's saying something.
I don't know. That's a little blasphemous
See,
for me.
I'm causing
but
controversy
I do,
over here.
I do love a lot of the newer stuff. There was a period where I just kind of drifted away from that particular sound of new metal. I think when metalcore really hit and all the like crazy guitar riffs and solos and stuff, which was the antithesis of,
that
of
was
new
all
metal.
just rhythm.
Right.
I kind of transitioned into that, but they were one of those bands that I always kind of came back to because they just kept putting out records, and you would come across it and you're like, shit,
It's
you know,
still
like,
good,
wow,
you
it's
know.
still good.
Yeah.
And live, they're always good live.
Untouchable.
Every single night. Every night.
Yeah.
It's literally like machines.
Yeah,
Every night
going on
it
the
was
road
just-
with Sevendust
Yeah.
is like having the band that sets the best example.
Honestly,
and
yes.
you watch how they work on and off stage. Everything on the inside and the out is exactly, you know, how a band like us and others like us, you know, want to run our stuff that way, you know? Like, I mean, it's just the whole...
Because that was
the
a
whole
really good thing about going out with them. The times that we have, it's like just watching how it's supposed to be, like watching like the way it works, how it works, and you're watching all of them running back and forth and everything. And it's like, you know, it's like watching an anthill. Like everyone knows exactly what they're doing, exactly what's going on. This goes there, this goes there. It's cool to just watch it.
What other new bands would you want to tour with that are out there right now?
Man, that's a great question. That really is.
To be honest, there's not a whole lot of bands we wouldn't, you know, like to go run with.
We're very open to, I mean, I have my own personal biases of bands that we haven't toured with that are some of my favorites that I'd want to tour with, like Alter Bridge, just because Mark Tremonti is one of my favorite guitar players ever. So for me,
I would have never guessed that. What do you mean?
I have a signature model, and yeah, I'm a huge fanboy. Mark, I will beat you in ping pong one day.
Yeah,
it
for
will
those
happen.
who don't know,
You could try.
Mark actually murked Dax in a ping pong game.
Yeah, he beat me
Like
21 to
2.
2
Yeah.
in a ping pong game. Well, dude, okay, come on, he's Mark Tremonti. Dude, when he's chilling at home,
It's just
what do you
those
think he's doing?
hangs.
He's ponging it up all day.
Dude.
Pinballing and ping ponging.
Who'd have thought? Tremonti's like
so-
just as good as a ping
And
pong
he was
player.
basically like, who will challenge me? Who will challenge the master? And I'm like, I'll do it. You know, I'll try it.
You drew the short straw. You're like,
Everyone was sitting there like, no, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, no one wants to play ping pong with Mark Tremonti. I will do it.
You were the new kid in school, and you're at recess, and you're about to run races against everybody else at school, and everybody knows Tremonti is clearly the fastest kid in school. You had no idea. You're like, I got it. I'll do
I
it.
just saw an opportunity to play ping pong with Mark Tremonti. I'm like, you guys are stupid.
Yeah.
And then I'm like 19 to 2, and I'm like, this isn't going very well.
That ping pong game is available on our fan club.
It is also the full pillaging is
I forgot about
available.
that.
Music.com/Mark, if you want
At
to watch it, just hit us up.
KIRRAmusic.com/join the
Watch
family.
it for free.
What are some of the other bands besides Tremonti? Because I feel like Alter Bridge and Tremonti and his projects, those are no
Pretty similar,
brainers.
yeah, right?
Who was the singer? I can't even remember. Who was the singer in Tremonti?
Him?
It was him. He sang.
Yeah, Mark
Okay.
sang on that one. Other bands like I do want to go out on tour with Nothing More again, just because like we went out on tour with Nothing More and we were in a certain position with the band where we hadn't had Gabe yet, but we didn't have Jesse either. You know, we had an intermediary singer that helped us out on that tour. And I've always felt like, man, we need a redemption tour with them to really show them, because now...
Was that the only one?
that was the only-
I thought you guys had gone out with them a couple of times. I guess
no, just one time. And I would, if you want, bring us back out. We'll show you what's up. No, but I would love to go out on tour with them. Plus, I thought they were a great band as far as like taking the whole show to another level, by adding in those different elements like the scorpion tail and check that out if you haven't heard it.
What was the first Nothing More show you went to?
What's it called? Rock the Hall, Deck the Halls, or it was
Wreck the Halls.
Wreck the Halls. That's what it was.
Yeah.
At the Diamond.
It was A Day to Remember, Royal Blood, Nothing More. And you want to know a funny thing? I hated Nothing More originally because I was a purist. I was one of those jerks that was just like, if there's any production or auto-tune or anything, it's awful. And then I heard This Is the Time, and if I got past the intro, I was like, okay, that's pretty good. And then I heard Mr. MTV, and I was like, I mean, that one's good. And then I saw him live, and I was like, this is the best band I've ever seen in my life. So, yeah, I had I flipped 180 on that one, hardcore.
You know, I think it'd be really fun to maybe hit the road with Fire from the Gods sometime. You know, I mean, we got to meet, I believe his name's AJ.
That's a good band.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
They're killer.
We've had a couple of
Houston,
people, you know, say, you know, you guys would sound good with them.
And they're from Austin, I think.
I think so. Yeah.
So the first time Nothing More came to Oklahoma City, I got a phone call from a friend of mine who was in a Tulsa band, and I can't remember if it was his band My Solstice or if it was his other band Bravo Delta, but they were on tour with Nothing More. And Nothing More was an independent band, no label, no nothing, and they had booked this DIY tour. And Brandon's band being from Tulsa, they obviously had an in for a Tulsa venue, and he says, hey, we need an Oklahoma City date. So I called Tony Proctor, and they were booking this room on the south side at South 89th and Western or something. It was like an old movie theater, and it was, when you hear about Alcatraz and all the, like, White Zombie playing it out, that was the room, but it was called something else at the time. And I said, hey, these are some friends of mine. These bands are really, 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 really good. They're on tour. They need a date, door deal, you know, put some locals on it. I promise you're going to be blown away. And they came through, and everybody was like, holy shit, who is that? And they didn't have any of the scorpion tail or any of that, but it was still one of the most high energy shows you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah, man. That's and like, speaking of high energy bands, like Nothing More definitely was one of those bands when we went out on tour, even though we felt like we could be performing better, you know, circumstances aside, watching their system was very beneficial too, because they're another band that's like a very well-oiled machine behind the scenes.
Yeah. And wasn't the Contortionist on that?
The Contortionist was on
that
bill, which that was a cool combination because they're very prog and like odd time signatures, vibey kind of thing. The musicians on the side, we were freaking digging the absolute hell out of that. Some of the audience members, it was like it was kind of jarring. They weren't ready for that, you know. And we were over here just going like, yeah, that's sick, you know. So that was cool playing with the Contortionist too. But Papa Roach is another band I'd love to tour with, just because I love the energy of their shows.
I haven't seen them in almost 10 years, and it's still one of my top 3 bands live I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Always. Every show. Every show.
Insane frontman. Love his energy.
First time I saw them was here in Tulsa, and it was a radio station low-dough show. And it was, I didn't work in radio at the time. I was in college. It was $5.
Nice.
That's kick-ass.
$5, bro. Wow. Talk about a deal there, man.
Like at a bar, you know, like with a local band on it.
Yeah, that's
it was,
awesome.
No,
it was
I've
like
only ever seen him at the zoo.
It was basically like this, but it was on the other side of town. Man. So like 400 or 500 cap.
Wow, that's intimate with
I'll
Road.
throw a random band out there that no one would ever assumed that I would want to go on tour with, but is Big Wreck. Ian Thornley's band.
I can see you being a fan of that band.
I like Big Wreck and Thornley, just his own thing.
Which was great. And I kind of liked Thornley better than Big Wreck until these last couple of Big Wreck records that have come out. I was, you know, because you go away from music for a while and you come back to these bands, you're like, oh, damn.
Oh, that's got some good stuff, too.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like the older I get, too, the more I appreciate, you know, like, I definitely know the bands that I would want to listen to get like the sound I grew up with. You know, the Chevelles. It's another band I'd love to tour with. Blackstone Cherry. I love the sound of Blackstone Cherry. That would be a great tour.
Oh yeah.
You guys, you got to hit us up, yeah, because that would be awesome. Thrice would be another band. I love Thrice.
Thrice is so slept on. I feel like,
dude, yeah, dude, and they're
so
live.
underrated.
The singer Dustin is so good. He's so on point. At least the times I've seen him. I think we were at Earth Day Birthday in Florida, and right before we left, they went on and we caught like 3 or 4 songs, and I was like, dude sounds like he's straight up on the record. Like his power is there. Like I was very impressed.
So when is the next single from KIRRA coming out?
I can't tell you that. Can't give away all my secrets.
The truth is
close.
No, we don't know. That's an honest answer. We don't know, but it's going to be soon.
Now the thing is, we do have,
Yes.
you know,
There's music in the tank.
we have it,
Lots
but
of good music too, actually. There's some stuff that's ready. It's like it's mixed and mastered. It's ready to go. We're just figuring out marketing and artwork and a couple other little details, you know. And then there's stuff that like you'll hear tonight, you know, that we're debuting, which is
that's
brand new stuff. But it's definitely like we try to push ourselves. Like with the song like 16 Suns, that was a cool direction in one side of the spectrum, and the song we're opening with is going to be a song pushing kind of the other direction. I mean, it's not going to be deathcore or anything like that. You know, we're never going to quite be that heavy, but we've got some low-tuned,
some heavier stuff,
up-tempo stuff we're going to try tonight.
For the people that regularly go to KIRRA shows, I mean, they know that lots of the time, you know, before, you know, it might be a year or a year and a half before a song comes out, we're playing it live, you know. We just don't tell them. We just play it. You know, so
you got to test that stuff.
If you come to KIRRA shows, you'll hear lots of stuff that's not released yet. But
we just can't help ourselves.
No,
there's the whole you got to hold off. You know, you can't give it. I'm like, forget that.
We're
playing it tomorrow.
We want the cake, and
can you guys feel comfortable to play it? Yeah, sure, we're doing it.
Okay, so what would you do if you've got a song written, recorded, mixed, mastered? You've got the video shot. You are ready to drop everything on all the socials and all the digital media platforms, and you're ready to release it, and you decide you're out on tour, and you decide, you know what, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add this one to the set list, and you guys add it to the set list to test it out, and everybody like walks out in the middle of that song. Do you start over? Do you scrap it?
This is part of the reason why we play our unreleased stuff so soon, like way before it's released. Because
I've been in a band and toured and all of that stuff. I feel like that would just be like a straight punch to the gut to me. Like I'd be like, oh my God, like, am I still in tune?
Thankfully, these are things that we find out long before the song is released. You know, like we play our newer material live on purpose, not only because we're excited to play it and get it out there, but also because we're paying very close attention to how everybody's taking it. And, you know, not going to mention any song titles or anything, but there have been a few recently that we've played live, and we're like, you know what, that one's not ready. We didn't like it as much. We didn't think it went over as well. You know, we want to go back and mess with it a bit, and thankfully, you know, we can do that, knowing that, you know, by the time it does get released, it'll be at least better than whatever the hell we saw, you know, that changed our mind or whatever.
I think if the situation was like you said, and we had all that stuff ready, and it just like bombed, I have a feeling it would probably, you know, we'd finish everything, we'd load everything up, and I think it would be about a 35 to 40 minute van silence. Just sitting there, no one talking, and just followed by what are we doing?
And not like the whole show bombed after that. Like you just look and see everybody's faces of like the grimace and turn and go to the bar, and then when the song's over and the next one starts, they all come back and they're like, oh
yeah. No, we would definitely discuss that.
Part of me would feel the need to point somebody out, be like, you.
What did you hear?
What'd you walk off for? Why did you walk? Why did you walk off?
Do you immediately finish the set, just like take your guitar and like, you guys come here. Why did you hate my song?
Feedback time.
That's the I gotta take a piss song. Like, oh, I gotta go pee now.
No, that's funny.
I need a new beer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there was like you said, there was
I
a
may
time.
have a music video concept for you here
That may be-
somewhere.
Dude,
There's something here.
Yeah. Is there any band out there that has a music video where they start playing the song and then slowly everybody just kind of like leaves?
The whole music video is people slowly just backing up awkwardly away from the stage.
The All-American Rejects were on their first big tour, and they were an opening band for CKY.
Okay.
Nice.
And it was because they shared the same booking agent. Obviously, they're nothing alike
Yeah,
musically.
right.
And the CKY fans did not like the band. The band didn't really like All American Rejects, and there was a lot of tensions on this.
I can imagine.
And they had CKY had their fans turn their backs to the Rejects while they were on stage the whole time and give them the finger the whole
Oh my
time.
God.
Yikes.
Wow.
And they put up with that, I don't know, for a week or so until they finally had enough. And I'm pretty sure they jacked the entire rider's worth of stuff out of the dressing room and said, "We quit this tour. We're out."
I'm out.
Man. You
Yeah.
know, honestly, if
And they
if-
got a bigger booking agent right after that, and it exploded. So it all worked out.
Yeah.
I
honestly,
feel like if
yeah.
I seen something like that live, if a crowd did that to us, I would almost feel compelled to just get off stage and like get in the crowd with them and just start singing with them. Like just get closer to them.
If
Just
you're
to see,
if
you
you're
know?
the opener,
Yeah.
guess what, bitch? There's gonna be a pit next.
Oh, you watch out for what's coming. You open the can of Pandora's box,
Yeah, I feel like I would just I'd have some kind of obligation to. Okay, I see what you guys did. Now I have to do something.
Like, thankfully, we've never had any very awful moments like that necessarily. We've definitely had audiences that were. I'll give you guys a fun story. The guys know this. We know this very well. We were in Rock Springs, Wyoming with Saving Abel, beginning of 2016. It's cold. It's freezing. It's like January 5th or something, so it's frigid in Wyoming.
Negative 42.
Yes, exactly.
It was bullshit.
And we did something. We did a big no-no, which is we walked out on a merch split with the venue.
Ooh.
Never had done a merch split before. This is our first merch split. And then no one mentions it when we get there. And then as we're leaving, the venue's like, "Hey, so I'll be back for your merch split in like 10, 15
And we're
minutes."
like
Give you a chance to
green at
count
this
up. And
point.
we're like-
We didn't know.
We had no clue.
We were like,
No
this
clue.
sounds like someone's pulling
Yeah,
something
someone's
over
trying to
on
pull
us.
one over. This is a dirty business. People try to pull money over on you, so we're like, whatever. We're just gonna pack our stuff up and leave. The TM calls us and is like, "Did you leave?" Like, "Yeah, we're on the road." He's like, "You got to come back here now." The worst part about it is,
You're good.
is we owed the venue like $12. Because we didn't know what the percentages were, what any of the terms were. They just said, "We'll come back for our cut," and we're like, "Your cut? You didn't play that set. You didn't sell for 3 hours after the set. This is our money." They were owed $12, and we were like, ugh, but we didn't know. So we come back, we pay the $12, and they're like, "Okay, instead of punishing you by like making it to where you don't play tomorrow, or we're going to cut your set down time-wise," he goes, "We're going to think of something different." I'm like, "Okay, well, I don't know what that means." So we show up to Rock Springs, Wyoming, and we're in the backstage area, and they're like, "All right, you're about to go on stage. Enjoy this. You have to wear this, or else you can't play." Lingerie. Now, I had a lacy type thing going on. Ryan had like a flannel type
had a
thing.
skirt.
And a skirt. Jesse.
Twin Peaks looking
very-
kind of thing.
Looked like looked like he was what's her name, Shirley Manson from Garbage.
How much merch did you sell that night?
Not very much.
Not enough.
Because I mean, if you can imagine,
enough.
you have, and then Zach had nothing. He had no shirt on and had like X's over his nipples, and that was fun. So we get up on stage, and Jesse immediately makes like the clarification, like, "Okay, we don't normally look like this, but we're KIRRA and we're from Oklahoma City." And you could just tell that there was this thing preventing the crowd from liking us. There was this physical barrier that they're just like, "You know what? This music sounds all right, but I don't like looking at you."
It was a country fried Wyoming crowd.
Yes, they were expecting to go square dancing before Saving Abel, and they did not. And so, yeah, we could tell while we were on stage that they were just kind of looking at us like,
They were instead of square dancing, they were watching a bunch of squares dance.
That's right. That's right. And we did our best, and we just plowed through it. And Saving Abel, they were like, dude, mad respect. Like, you guys, like, owned it. And we were like, well, what else are you going to do? Be up on stage and be all, that's not going to be good. So it's like, we're here. Might as well just, like, well, we're going to put on the same set. But
And luckily, you didn't know anybody in Wyoming. So it's like,
yeah. That's exactly. Now, the footage may be out on our fan club. No, I'm just kidding. Thank God there is no footage of that I know of.
they used it in Yellowstone. In the,
Yeah, exactly. We were in the background of an episode of Yellowstone. Did not get compensated. Am not seeing the royalty rights.
Still
to that
waiting
at all.
on that.
Yeah.
well, guys, I appreciate it. Good luck tonight at the Shrine.
Dude, thank you so much,
Yeah,
man.
man.
I would
thank you.
promote the show, but this isn't going up till after the fact, so nobody's going to hear it anyway ahead of time.
That's all good.
No worries.
Everybody
You
come to
should
the
have been
next
here.
KIRRA show.
Yeah,
You should have been here.
Shame them.
Shame.
You could have been
Shame.
here on the night of the 5th.
Just kidding.